So, what if I told you that the number one reason startups fail isn't because of a bad idea, but because of a really good plan? Today, we're diving into a method that totally flips traditional business thinking on its head. It's not about having some flawless blueprint, it's about having a process to navigate the chaos and uncertainty of creating something new. We hear it all the time, right? Most new ventures just don't make it. But why? Is it a lack of cash? Are the ideas just plain bad? Well, the truth is, the most common reason is actually way more subtle and honestly, a lot more dangerous. And this quote from Eric Ries, the guy who wrote The Lean Startup, it nails it. Think about that for a second. Achieving failure. It's this nightmare scenario where you spend months, maybe even years, perfectly executing a plan, building something beautiful, only to launch and discover that nobody actually wants it. This whole methodology is designed to stop that from ever happening. So let's get right into it. The first big idea here is what's called the startup's lethal problem. And it's the idea that your beautiful, super detailed business plan, that might just be the riskiest thing you've got. See, here's the thing. A traditional business plan is kind of like launching a rocket ship. It assumes that every single calculation is perfect before you hit the launch button. But a startup isn't a rocket ship. It's more like exploring a dark jungle with just a compass. You're surrounded by this fog of extreme uncertainty. You think you know the customer, you think you know the product, but you don't really know. And trying to follow a rigid map in a jungle that's constantly changing, well, that's just a recipe for disaster. Okay, so if just building stuff isn't the main goal, then what is? The answer is one word: learning. This is a huge shift in mindset. You've got to stop focusing on just executing a plan and start focusing relentlessly on acquiring knowledge. And the currency of a lean startup, the way you measure progress, is something called validated learning. Now, this isn't just about hunches or feeling good about how busy you are. This is about cold, hard, empirical proof that you're actually on the right track. It's how you tell the difference between making real progress and just putting on what some people call success theater. And this means you have to start thinking like a scientist. Seriously. Every single thing you do, every new feature you add, every marketing ad you run, it's not just an action, it's an experiment. It has to start with a clear hypothesis, like, we believe that if we add this button, user engagement will increase by 10%. And the whole point of doing it is to prove or disprove that idea. So how do you actually run all these experiments? Well, you use a simple but incredibly powerful engine. It's a feedback loop that acts like the steering wheel for your startup, letting you make constant adjustments based on reality, not just on your initial theory. And the loop has 3 easy-to-remember steps: build, measure, and learn. But here's the secret sauce. The goal isn't just to complete the loop. The goal is to get through this entire cycle as fast as you possibly can. In the world of startups, your biggest competitive advantage isn't money or a secret algorithm. It's the speed at which you can learn. Okay, let's break that down. The first step, build, is all about one thing: speed. You create what's called a minimum viable product, or MVP. And let's be super clear, this is not your final polished dream product. It's the absolute simplest version you can create to start that learning process right now. Think of it as an experiment, plain and simple. Next up is measure. Once your little experiment is out there in the real world, you have to collect actual data. And we're not talking about asking customers what they might do in a survey. We're talking about tracking what they actually do. This is where your brilliant theories slam right into the harsh light of reality. And finally, we have learn. You take all that data you just measured and you analyze it. Did it work? Did you prove your hypothesis? And this analysis, this learning, leads you to the single most critical decision any startup has to make. Do we persevere and keep going on this path, or do we pivot and make a big, fundamental change? All right, so to run that build, measure, learn engine effectively, you're going to need the right set of tools. Let's walk through the 3 most important ones in your lean startup toolkit. So the first and probably most famous tool is the MVP. Just to hammer this home, its only purpose is to get you through that feedback loop as quickly as possible. You're not building it for everyone, you're building it for the early adopters, the folks who are willing to overlook a few rough edges because they have a real problem. It is designed for maximum learning, not maximum features. It's how you avoid that ultimate sin, building something nobody wants. A perfect example of this is the Zappos story. The founder had this crazy, risky idea. Would people actually buy shoes online without being able to try them on? Now, instead of building a giant warehouse and buying tons of inventory, his MVP was super simple. He went to local shoe stores, took pictures of their shoes, and posted them on a basic website. When someone actually bought a pair, he would go back to the store, buy the shoes, and then ship them out. Zero tech, zero inventory, just 100% pure validated learning. And get this, an MVP doesn't even have to be a real working product. Look at Dropbox. Before they built their incredibly complicated file syncing technology, they created a simple little explainer video. It just showed how the product would work. They put that video on their website with a sign-up form, and bam, hundreds of thousands of people signed up, basically overnight. They proved people wanted their product before they wrote a single line of code for it. All right, the next tool is all about what you measure. And this is so important. You have to know the difference between vanity metrics and actionable metrics. Vanity metrics, things like total page views or total app downloads, they look amazing in a slide deck, but they tell you absolutely nothing useful. They create this dangerous illusion of progress. Actionable metrics, on the other hand, things like conversion rates or customer retention, show clear cause and effect. They are the only true foundation for validated learning. So let me tell you a quick story about a company called IMVU. For months, they were working like crazy, shipping new features and proving their product. They felt really busy, like they were making tons of progress. Or at least, they thought they were. But when they finally took a hard look at their actionable metrics, one brutal number just stared right back at them. Their conversion rate for new customers was completely stuck at a flat 1%. All that work, all those features, all those late nights had zero impact. It wasn't moving the needle at all. That single brutal number proved their efforts were being wasted and forced them to make a massive change in strategy. You could say that numbers saved them from going out of business. And that leads us to our final tool, the pivot. Now, a pivot is not a failure. It's not throwing in the towel. It is a strategic, structured course correction that's based on what you have learned. It's one of the bravest and most important things a startup can do because it means you're putting evidence ahead of ego. Okay, so that was a lot. How do you actually put all of this together and start using it? Let's distill everything down to a simple 4-step plan you can start using like today. First, you got to find your assumptions. What are the riskiest leap of faith beliefs that absolutely must be true for your whole idea to work? Second, build the fastest, simplest MVP you can think of to test those assumptions. Third, measure the results using those actionable metrics we talked about. And finally, number 4, use that data to make the tough call. Do you pivot or do you persevere? And this isn't a one-time thing. It's a loop. You just keep repeating it, getting smarter and closer to the truth with every single cycle. So I'll leave you with this final thought. It doesn't matter if you're in a tiny startup or a giant company. Think about whatever you're working on right now. What is the single biggest leap of faith you're making? And here's the important part. What is the absolute smallest, simplest experiment you could run tomorrow? Not next week, not next month, but tomorrow, to find out if you're actually on the right track. Answering that question, well, that's the real heart of the lean startup.